We are going to discuss with my guest panelists the energy transition and the role of regulators in ensuring a functioning Mediterranean energy market. This morning, I have listened to very interesting speeches about the global dynamics, politics, and the recent developments, and the future of energy, of course, based on mostly business as usual scenarios. But one thing to me, as an observer, outsider, being in the energy market since years, we are missing, which is a crisis. We are having several crises in the energy market, in the global markets as well, and based on this crisis, we are reshaping everything. Are we really ready for any kind of crisis? Are we really taking the necessary lessons from this crisis? Second, are we really ready for a technological developments which will dramatically change the future of energy market? And thirdly, force majeure, which we are now in, several force majeure here and there. When it comes to this force majeure, are we really ready to act on time? Maybe I am repeating a lot this anecdote from my life. When I was a student 33 years ago, 1992, we had a professor from MIT universities, came to our university to teach us high-tech materials. And he said three things I am repeating almost at every international conference, which is really striking for me. It will be also striking for you too. He said three things. I took note of it after 33 years. He said, the one who lead high-tech materials will lead the world, which is true, and it's happening today. Second, 1992 again, I underline, he said, we will have smart equipments everywhere in our life, which we are in now, exactly in a situation like this. And thirdly, he said that the one who achieve to store electricity in huge quantities or amount will get the Nobel Prize. And I am sure it will happen in a couple of years or maximum in 5 years period. So this is a vision of an academician 33 years ago. Why it is important? What he said 33 years ago, it's happening today. And just recently, I found him. He is now a head of department at the University of Florida. I said, Rashid Hojam, you remember? He said, I remember, but I don't remember you. I said, no worries. You said these three things. He said, possible. I don't remember. Can you tell me the next 10, 20 years? He laughed at me and he said, it's not easy in our era. Impossible, even we cannot predict the next 5 years. Therefore, the problem now in our energy dynamics, we are not really taking the necessary lessons from the crisis or from our experience. We are unfortunately repeating the same things and paying so much money for the energy transition. Having said this one, I will specifically talk a bit on the energy regulation. So, as MEDREC, we are an organization of 29 members from 23 countries in the Mediterranean region. Our main objective is to promote a coherent, consistent, non-discriminatory energy regulation with a view to ensuring a stable, sustainable, and competitive Mediterranean energy market. So a similar market to the one in the European Union. To be very frank, European Union made significant achievement since last quarter century in the European energy market. Today in the European energy market, a functioning energy market we are having, and then it is developing and it is improving the standard, quality, and everything. As MEDREC, we are composed of mainly 3 regions. From one region, we have the European Union, functioning energy market, and from the other side, we have the Balkan countries and Turkey, and then the last one, we have the Southern Mediterranean countries, which have already opened their market to competition, trying to create a competitive energy market in their region. Energy transition, this is a dilemma that we are having today, and I am sure that we have to achieve this one, the energy transition, otherwise we should all pay for it. And we have already started paying for it as well. Is it possible? Yes, it is possible, but it requires a collaborative, coordinated effort global-wise. Otherwise, it won't be possible whether European Union achieved the targets and the other region did not really reach to this target as well. So this is one thing that we have to achieve. Therefore, the role of regional organization and the institutions is important, first and foremost, to create this target in their own regions too. Again, just before us, there was this LNG session. And I personally believe that, again, we are making the same mistake that we did it some years ago, and still we didn't receive or we didn't get the lesson that we needed for the future. Whether we like or not, gas is a hydrocarbon, but is the cleanest one. And it is the only fuel that can play a vital role towards this energy transition. It is the only fuel alongside the nuclear. So we need gas at least for the next quarter century with us to achieve or to move on towards this direction. Today I have 4 panelists from our region, from the different part of the region, and they will be discussing with you and briefing you about the recent development in our region and their specific experience in their specific countries, how they move on towards the energy transition. As a regulator, what are the really main challenges for them, and then as a kind of Mediterranean energy market, collaboratively, what we do together. They will mention about all these technical details. First and foremost, I would like to thank them to be with us today in my home country, and then it's a great pleasure to welcome you all. Welcome. And then I would like to start with Mihalis Mitolakis. He is leading the Greek Energy Forum. He is a professor at the University of Macedonia in Thessaloniki, and he has written several articles on the energy strategies and the future of energies. Mihalis, floor is yours.
Thank you, Hassan. Thank you very much. It's an honor to be here, and thank you for the invitation. It's a little bit funny for me to be speaking among regulators because me, myself, I'm not a regulator. I have been working a lot with regulatory authorities from Greece and from other countries. However, my expertise is energy geopolitics. So since we are talking about the Mediterranean here, it's very interesting for me to blend these 2 things together. I would like to begin with a few comments, also from what I heard in some panels here and there. First of all, again, while not being a regulator, I feel the need to defend the concept of regulation, because when one hears about regulation and regulatory authorities, there are 2 things. First, one thinks boring. What are these guys going to talk about? That's boring. And second, why do we need it? I heard it also in the last panel, people complaining, the EU, they have all these regulations. What are we going to do? Why do we need so many regulations? However, we live our lives through regulation, and everything we do, if we lived an alternative without regulations, without somebody actually helping us apply the law and make sense of everything, it would be chaotic. So the role of the regulators and the regulatory authorities and all the system is quite crucial, especially in such a complex environment like the energy sector, and in particular when it comes to natural gas and electricity. And here I want, Hassan, you said something very interesting earlier about the electricity and storage. I want to begin with making us understand why this whole thing is so important. So this is an energy concert. We talk about energy. Very often, and here we talk about regulation. When it comes to regulatory issues or general problems, very often one does not hear anything about oil. When it comes to oil, we don't have so many rules, we don't have so many systems, we don't have so many regulations, we don't have so many checks. And I'm wondering if somebody has thought, why is this? While if you think about electricity, for example, we have all these systems, all these rules, how electricity goes, who goes in, who has rights to buy, who has rights to sell, access to the network, all the systems. Also with natural gas, but less. When it comes to oil, nothing. There's a big difference. Oil, we can store oil very easily and very cheaply in comparison to electricity and natural gas. And because we have this ability with oil, that's why things are more simple in all the supply chain. Electricity, like you said, that the professor said very wisely so many years ago, has one big problem. We cannot store electricity massively and cheaply the way we want, and we are able to do it with other energy products. However, all the world, we are turning more and more towards electrification through renewables in order to fight climate change. Others are going faster, others are going slower, but everybody's going toward that direction. So we are turning to using more and more electricity and using more and more a product that we cannot store efficiently. This is really important to remember, and I will tell you one thing that maybe it will resonate with you and stay with you. Electricity is the only product in the world that is produced on industrial scale and is consumed the minute it's produced. There's nothing else in the world that you produce in a factory and we consume it, retail, almost immediately. A product that we consume immediately when it's produced, for example, is coffee. You go to a place, you order coffee, they make it, they give it to you. It's not produced on a factory level, it's produced on a small level. Electricity is the only product. And we have to do it like that because we cannot store it. And because we cannot store it, it needs a lot of systems and regulations to make sure that this thing will happen equally for everybody and effectively. And this is where the role of regulators comes inside. So this is what my talk will be today. However, I had a presentation and I don't seem to have the...
Can we put the presentation on the screen, please? Yeah.
Yes, but yes. I don't have a thing to change.
You have the pointer.
So while the system will happen, okay. So the regulators nowadays, they have to face... Thank you, Hassan. Thank you very much. The regulators, they have to face two basic challenges. Is this how it's moving? Okay. The whole world, we have to face the energy transition. So there is this big effort to try and lower CO2 emissions, decarbonize. And again, other countries go faster with this, other countries go slower, but this is a global effort. And this means that the whole system needs to change, right? It's the energy transition that we know of. However, there is a second thing that has emerged in the last couple of years, and regulators are right in the middle of it. We have just realized that together with the energy transition, we are going through a transformation of how we conceive energy systems will be in the future. Before the renewables, we thought that an energy system was hydrocarbons. Then we had the revolution of the renewables, and then we thought that we're going to switch completely to renewables. We had all these targets with all the COP meetings, 2050, carbon neutral, and all that. So we thought that this is the way to go. In the last couple of years, we realized that actually this is also not the solution. So we're going through the transformation of realizing that our system is hybrid. Hassan, earlier you said about who knows how it will be. I will tell you, I know. The system, the future will be hybrid. We have to use everything we have at the same time. There is no way to go only one way or another. But the problem is that for the regulatory authorities, for the regulators who sit in the middle of arranging how energy will flow, they have to solve these two big things at the same time, together with the governments, because this is also a job for the governments and the whatever international organizations. But eventually, whatever all these big people decide, it comes down to the regulators, the regulatory authorities, like all the regulatory authorities in the Mediterranean with MEDREC, to actually make these things happen. And the things that we need to make happen when it comes to regulation, we need to make miracles, because the regulators they have two basic missions. One is that they need to make sure that the market is functioning, that there is a market, and that the market is working, because generally in the world we believe that it's better to have a market that functions rather than have secret deals to arrange how things will happen. So we want markets. When you have markets, you have buyers, sellers, prices go down, it's good for everybody. So the regulators need to make sure that we have a functioning market that gives incentive to for people to invest to that so it can grow, and at the same time it will protect the consumers. Now, this on a first note might sound like a very ideal situation. If you have a market, prices go down, this is good for consumers. However, it's not always the case. Very often these things might be problematic with each other, and the regulator has to figure this out. Also, the regulators need to figure out a way to lower volatility. We need to figure out a way that things will function properly regardless of economic and political cycles. I am from Greece, we are here in Turkey, we know about problems with politics. We are not in Switzerland where things are flat, things are changing. In the Mediterranean, since we're talking about the Mediterranean, the political environment very often is changing and it's problematic. However, people's lives cannot be affected when it comes to the energy sector so much according to what the political environment is. And the regulator needs to figure out a way to stabilize things so that regardless of how the economy or the political situation is, people know that every time they flip a switch there is electricity, every time they turn a switch there is gas, and so on. This is not as easy as it sounds, because to do all these things, the regulators have to do it in an environment that is completely and always changing. There is geopolitical changes, geopolitical balances that we need to figure out. The regulators themselves, they have to be, especially in the Mediterranean, work under different levels of independence. So, at a principle, a regulatory authority is something separate from the government. It's an independent organization that has to figure out a way that the market works, the consumer is protected, regardless of what each government does. Now, this is, as you understand, not an easy task. And each country has different laws about how independent the regulatory authority can be. But the problem is that very often we have regulators from two different countries that they have to communicate. If we need to build a cable or a pipeline between two countries, the regulatory authorities of these two countries need to come together and see how they can make the deal. The politicians might shake hands, say, fine, we're going to do it, and go. Eventually, the regulators come in and they have to do it. And these regulators function under different circumstances, and they have to figure out a way to do it together. And the last thing that regulators need to do, that it's not very easy, they have to work to try and put together sometimes policies that are conflicting. For example, energy security and the energy transition. In the European Union, very often we have been saying that these things can go together. We have seen now the past few years that this is not always the case. While you try to go green, when you try to lower CO2 emissions, sometimes you can make it work and be more secure. Very often, no. And the regulatory authority must put all these things together. Now, of course, I started saying all the problems and the complaints. Eventually, I will come up with some positive outcome about all this. But it's very important, especially since we are talking about the Mediterranean, which is a very different region. It differs from all sides of you, from the north to the south, from the east to the west. And the Mediterranean needs to start functioning as a whole, while it's partly European, partly Middle Eastern, partly North African. It's very, very different mentalities, right? So we need to figure out a way. One of the big differences that we have, the levels of independence from the government, to figure out a way to put it together. Now, this is a big debate. There are people who might say that it's not necessary for a regulator to be independent from the government. It can just be one more office of the ministry. So there you have a ministry for energy, it has 1, 2, 3, it can have also the regulation. The people who will figure things out. However, reality says that all countries don't have the same. For example, in the Mediterranean, that is our topic for today, Mediterranean has some countries that belong to the EU. By definition, the EU countries, the regulators, they have to be independent, which means that they cannot obey what the government says. They have to do what they want, whether the government likes it or not. This means that when a minister from an EU Mediterranean country like Greece or Italy or Malta or whatever wants to make a deal with a country in North Africa, with Algeria or with Egypt or with anybody, the European country, the European regulator, does not have to listen to the instructions that the minister gave. They will do whatever analysis, technical analysis they think is correct, and they will apply this. While the regulator from Egypt, for example, might have to comply to a bigger degree, let's say, to what the minister says. Might, we don't know. This is a problem. And this is something that it's not solvable, because nobody can back off, but common ground needs to be found. And this is a big challenge on whether big projects are materialized. Very often, also in the previous channel, I heard they were talking about the Turkish Stream pipeline. So that's a pipeline, Russian pipeline coming from Turkey to Bulgaria and so on to Europe. Or we talk about electricity cables from Egypt to Greece, there are electricity cables from Algeria to Italy and so on and so on. In all these cases, the regulatory authorities need to overcome the uncertainty to make these projects come alive. And very often in the energy sector, when you open a newspaper, you will see a lot of talk about a project, and then the project might not ever materialize. And you say, I've been listening about this for 5 years now. What is the problem? The problem might be regulation. The problem might be that whoever does not know about regulation thinks that things are easy, and when it comes down to it, we have these problems that make it not function. So what are the differences and the particularities in the Mediterranean? We have different regulatory independence, we have different regulations, different laws, and we have some countries who are obligated by the EU system and some countries who are not. All these need to be somehow overcome in order to make electricity interconnections, gas pipelines, even the LNG terminals that we are talking more and more about, even the LNG terminals, since they are the places where energy comes inside the country from another country, this also needs regulation about who will get access there, who can have the orders, whose ship will go first, and who will wait in line. And these are all affecting the everyday life of people and the consumers. Now, regulation very often is considered a very technical thing. Like you have to be an engineer or a lawyer and figure out the technical things. But very often, regulation has what I call an externality effect. So there are things about the regulatory systems that can actually affect the relationship between countries. A regulatory framework might decide who gets to participate in a project or not. A regulatory framework might decide who gets excluded and why. We have, for example, in the European Union, the so-called third-party access rule and the unbundling rule. The third-party access rule says that when you have an infrastructure for natural gas, for example, that when you have a pipeline that moves gas, the owner of the pipeline cannot be the owner of the gas. The same goes for LNG terminals, the same goes for electricity cables. And something like that, that's the unbundling. The third-party access says that when you have a pipeline that brings gas, you cannot have monopoly. For the European Union, for example, it says that whatever pipeline or electricity cable comes into the European Union, 30% of the capacity needs to be left for other people than the owner of the pipeline to put gas inside. And this can influence who actually is at play. And a very characteristic example about this, I have it someplace. How can I go back? I'm sorry. I don't have it, I'll just say it. This thing with the externality effect, for example, a very big example was, when it comes to gas pipelines, the Nord Stream pipeline. Here I have it here. So, if you remember, after Russia invaded Ukraine and we had all this turmoil, there was a big discussion about whether the Nord Stream pipeline, the second line, would ever come to play, or the first pipeline that had stopped will stop bringing natural gas, way before we had the explosion of the pipeline. So there was a lot of speculation. People were saying, oh, the Americans are going to stop the pipeline, the Europeans are going to stop the pipeline, there's political pressure, it's economic pressure, blah, 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 blah. Eventually, the pipeline did not work because it did not comply with the third-party access rule of the European Union and with the unbundling rule. So it was the regulatory framework that actually stopped the Nord Stream pipeline before the second line of the Nord Stream pipeline, before even the explosions. While all the world was talking about political pressures and what will this do and the other politician do and this and that, actually a simple regulatory measure, third-party access, who has access to the pipeline, and unbundling, who is the owner of the pipeline, made the pipeline, which was vital for Russia's exports, which was also critical for Germany itself and European Union, made the pipeline stop. This pipeline never worked because of this. So there is an externality, which means that the decisions that the regulators take can have even geopolitical effects. And in the Mediterranean, then anyway the balance and the differences between political interests are very different, the regulatory authorities and the regulations and the externality of the regulations, they become extremely, extremely important. I don't want to bother you with more of that. The point is that in the Mediterranean, that we are so diverse about where we come from different systems, and what we want to achieve, we need to start doing things correctly. So far, what we see in the Mediterranean, specifically when we talk about projects that involve more than one country, so 2 countries or more, is that we first make a decision about making a project, and then we try and figure out how to regulate it. So first we say, we want to make a cable from country A to country B. We want to make a new pipeline from here to here. We want to build hydrogen from here to there. We want to build more new LNG terminals and so and so. First, we want to make the project, and then we say, okay, let's figure out how to do the regulation. This is a problem. Because of all these problems, issues that I've been saying all this time, very often the projects cannot materialize, or they cannot materialize fast enough, because there is not a common ground. So my suggestion here is that for the regulation in the Mediterranean to start being functionable and bring results, we need to figure out first a common ground. And there, the MedReg, I believe, the MedReg's role is really, really important, because we need to figure out first where is the common, where do we have common things? So, okay, we use these ones. In the things that we don't have common, where can we find common ground? Somebody will go a little bit up, the other one will go a little bit down. Figure it out before we start making projects. And here, for the Mediterranean countries and the regulators, there are two big questions. When it is about building a regulatory framework, do we use as a base the European Union regulatory framework or not? This is more than just a technical question. This is actually very fundamental for all the Mediterranean. Because on one hand, you have the European regulatory framework, which is ready. It's very advanced. We know it very much. All the countries know it. It's very elaborate. It has solutions for everything. It is anyway binding half of the countries in the region. All the EU countries, they have to do it. And it's also mandatory for the countries who are not EU countries that want to do business with the EU countries. So anyway, you have some of the countries, the EU, that they have to follow it, but even the ones who are not, if they want to do business, they have to follow it. So there is a big decision. All the Mediterranean, from Algeria to Lebanon, from Spain to Turkey and Greece and Egypt and everybody, and Tunisia and everybody. Do we want to use the European Union framework as a base, or as a base to build a common framework or not? Because yes, everybody knows it, it's very elaborate, some of the countries, they have to do it, but it's also very difficult, it's very demanding. And this has been a problem for the Mediterranean. When you have countries that they just manage to move away from coal, for example, some of the Balkan countries in the Mediterranean, also Greece, or from natural gas, and you say, you know what, we go full for renewables, you have to do renewables, but these countries didn't have options how to actually move forward with renewables. This was creating problems. So maybe going a common ground built on the EU regulatory framework, maybe this is not the way. This is some big discussions that need to be done. And to finish, before that, for the Mediterranean countries, away from the regulatory level, Mediterranean as a total, the big question is that, does the Mediterranean want to look towards Europe as a client and as a partner or not? Because up until now, it was kind of like for granted that, you know what, for the Mediterranean, the big market is Europe, we turn there. If the Mediterranean region has natural gas, we sell to Europe. If we can produce electricity, we sell to Europe. But Europe demands things, and maybe this is not the way. Maybe the way for the Mediterranean would be to look inwards and see how to make business with each other. I don't know what the best question is, the answer, but this is the big question.
Mialis, thank you very much. Really, you have highlighted the most important issues in the Mediterranean region with your presentation, and you also raised several questions for us to reply. Indeed, it is extremely difficult to create a functioning market, but MedReg is here to really enhance, to facilitate these endeavors among the countries. One of our main objectives is not to transpose or harmonize any regulation from the EU. But, of course, European Union has great experience and then developed a very good practices since more than 20 years. We should definitely benefit from it. But our objective is, as you said, that we should create a functioning Mediterranean energy market, either this way or another way. Therefore, as regulators, we come together. We are trying to create a common ground for regulation, to create minimum standards, how we can work together, how we can create a functioning market. Now, having said this one, I would like to leave the floor to our second panelist, Mr. Emin Remini. Is the chairman of Algerian Gas Regulatory Authority, and he has been in the gas sector since long time. He assumed several positions at the Ministry of Energy, and since sometimes he is the new president of Algerian Regulatory Authority. Emin, can you please share with us, as Hydrocarbon Regulatory Authority, what you are doing in Algeria towards particularly the energy transition and the regulation, particularly in the Algerian energy market?
Thank you, Hassan, for your question. So first of all, I would like to present ARH. ARH, who is responsible for monitoring hydrocarbon activities from upstream to marketing, across transportation and downstream also. In addition to monitoring, the ARH regulates the market for oil and gas in Algeria, particularly with regard to the calculation of tariffs and price of products, of oil and gas products. Regarding your question, I consider the Mediterranean basin as an area of energy complementary between the north and the south, with great opportunities for complementary around this basin to successfully achieve this energy transition. Yeah, thank you. Sorry. So taking in account both technological and economic opportunities and realities. Therefore, I believe that the role of regulator, which has progressed over the last 20 years, should continue to be based on a common vision in which we must play a role as facilitators of the transition, ensuring a stable, competitive, and socially acceptable market to enable investors to develop large scale of renewable energy projects, including photovoltaics, wind power, and hydrogen, and to interconnect the electricity and gas networks initially, followed by hydrogen projects in the medium and long term. As regards our current role in the transition, the ARH ensures compliance with the national regulations and the commitments made by Algeria to achieve its energy transition objectives. We also support a NAFT agency, which is the regulator of the upstream oil and gas sector in Algeria, as well as investors partnering with Sonatrach, who is national oil company, in upgrading existing facilities and developing a new project with a focus on reducing the carbon footprint and introducing new technologies, whether in the areas of energy efficiency, CO2 sequestration, and the use of renewable energies for natural gas production. In summary, the ARH ensures the attractiveness of the Algerian energy sector and support operators and investors in increasing energy supplies, primarily through natural gas and the implementation of new projects aimed at reducing the carbon footprint. This is our strategy and vision of transition. Exactly.
Thank you, Amin. I will come on the second round with another questions about your vision towards this energy transition. Our third speaker is Mohamed El Maya, who is the Commissioner for Energy and also the Vice Chairman of Regulatory Authority of Jordan, Electricity Regulatory Authority of Jordan, and he is also the Vice President, like Amin, of MEDREC. Mohammed is going to brief us about the recent developments in the Regulatory Authority and in the Jordanian energy market and the recent developments. Mohammed, floor is yours, please.
Thank you, Hassan. Yes, the title of our session is the role of regulator. So the role of regulators are crucial and focused on the regulate, monitor and follow up and pricing. Pricing is the tariff and monitoring, as my colleague Mihail is told shortly, that the protection of consumers is important, guarding the connection and compliance and the billing. So in my presentation, I will focus on the Energy and Minerals Regulatory Commission and the role, and especially in the renewable energy resources. This one. So my presentation will include the following: background and the energy situation in Jordan and the main achievement and some conclusions. Energy and Minerals Regulatory Commission, this is the law of Energy and Minerals Regulatory Commission number 8 for the year 2017, was published by the government, giving exclusive right to the EMRC to regulate, supervise and monitor 7 sectors: nuclear and radiation, mining, electricity and renewable energy, petroleum and oil shale, and gas sectors. Now, in this presentation, as I mentioned, I will focus on the renewable energy and electricity. This law making EMRC a comprehensive regulatory body with lawful regulatory powers. EMRC in brief established in 2014, 5 commissioners including chair, 19 departments. The staff is around 345 members. The energy situation in Jordan, there are some challenges facing the energy in Jordan: lack of conventional energy resources, dependency on imported energy. We import around 80% from outside, and a significant increase of primary and electricity energy demand. How to achieve this? Through expanding the development of renewable energy and developing a local gas field. We have a local gas field in Arisha, in Jordan. And based on the Bloomberg research report, Jordan ranked first in the renewable energy growth in MENA region and third in the world among 103 countries around the world in the renewable energy. So we have now around 27% renewable energy, both in the photovoltaic and in the wind. Jordan in the total of electricity mixed. This is the existing electricity structure in Jordan. So we have in yellow in the left, we have the generation, and in the middle we have the transmission and distribution. There are generation, all companies are private except Samra. This is still on the state ownership, and all these generation companies are granted license from EMRC as a regulator, and sell the electricity to the transmission. Transmission is granted a license from EMRC, but it is one license for 3 activities: the transmission network system provider and system operator and single buyer. Single buyer, they are buying the electricity from generation and resell the electricity to the distribution company, and distribution companies resell also the electricity to the end user. But the tariff between the generation and the transmission, this is based on the power purchase agreement, and EMRC is responsible to set the tariff between the transmission and distribution company, GIPCO, IDECO, and IDCO, and this is bulk tariff, and between the distribution company and end user, this is a retail tariff and set also by the EMRC. The framework of the renewable energy in Jordan, we have the laws, bylaw and regulation, and some guidelines. The laws is, as I mentioned before, that Energy and Minerals Regulatory Commission law, and renewable energy and energy conservation law, number 13, and amended law on the renewable energy and energy conservation, number 33 for 2014, and it shall be read with the previous law, number 13 for 2012, and General Electricity Law, number 10 of 2025. This is a new law for put into effect in the last August, instead of the previous one, which was issued in 2002. The bylaws and regulation of renewable energy, amended bylaw number 63 for the 2016 for electricity generation license fees. Also, we have the bylaw number 30 of the 2015 electricity generation license fees, direct proposal bylaw for generating electricity from renewable energy resources, and regulation on electricity wheeling from renewable energy system, regulation for the sale of electricity energy from the renewable energy system based on the article number 10 B of the renewable energy actions. Also, the licensing instruction for the persons who are engaged in the design, supply, installation, operation, maintenance, and inspection of renewable energy system. Also, grid code, distribution connection code at the medium voltage for the renewable energy resources. Instruction on cost of connection a renewable energy facility to the distribution system in cases of the competitive bidding and direct proposals. Also, instructions of the electric vehicles charging station. We have the mechanism for calculating the rate of purchasing electricity power from renewable energy resources. New renewable energy regulation 2024 system for regulating the connection of renewable energy facilities to the electric grid 2024. The key updates issues a new regulation governing the connection of renewable energy installation to the grid. We introduced three mechanisms: net billing mechanism, zero export mechanism, and sell all and buy all mechanism. And we terminate the previous mechanism, which was the net metering and the wheeling. These updates aim to enhance grid stability and ensure fair compensation and align renewable integration with market-based principles. Guide to connect renewable energy to both to the transmission system network and to the distribution network. Renewable energy policy target, we have the competitive bidding, direct proposal submission, energy net metering application until 2024. This is for the previous projects connected to the both transmission and distribution. Also the wheeling application until 2024, and sorry, and the new mechanism, which is net billing mechanism, zero export mechanism, sell all, buy all mechanism, and cell generation applications. Electric vehicles station, we have, it's not allowed to construct or own and operate undertaking electric vehicle station except in accordance with license granted from the EMRC. We have two types. The first one is the private electric vehicle station and public. First of all, he has to take the permission from EMRC, and afterwards he has to submit application for the license. The permission for the private 3 months and the license 2 years, and for public permission is 5 months and the license is 5 years. Every station shall have separately smart meters that record the power consumption during the charging process, and also the electric charge station can be electrified from the renewable energy resources. This is some figures about the renewable in Jordan up to October 2025 that we have connected to the distribution network, around 1,249 megawatt, with a project around 91,000 project. And the solar project connected to the grid, all the grid, it's about 2,268 megawatt. Wind project in operation in Jordan, now we have 621 megawatt. The total capacity of renewable connected to the Jordanian grid is around 2,889 megawatt, which is sharing about 27 of the electricity generation. Here we have the number of electric vehicles licensed up to October 2025. We have a permit around 1,000 and the license 200. And for the household meters, around 2,500 meters. The person who are engaged in the design, supply, installation, operation, maintenance, and inspection of renewable energy, number of licensees around 380 companies. Thank you, Hassan.
Thank you, Mohammed. As you have seen that in the Mediterranean region, each country has already created a functioning energy market. Just one country remained without regulators, which is Tunisia. As MEDREC, we are in close contact with the Ministry of Energy in creating their independent regulators. But in the other countries, each country has its own regulators and they are trying to regulate their energy market. Thank you, Mohammed, for your brief about the recent developments in the Jordanian electricity market. My last panelist is again from Algeria, from another regulatory authority, ALNAFT, which foresees the Algerian upstream hydrocarbon sectors. Mr. Samir Bekti is the chairman of this authority and has 25 years of experience in oil and gas sectors, and he has led the regulatory framework particularly in the upstream of Algeria. Samir, can you please share your experience and your duties and responsibilities in the Algerian hydrocarbon markets while considering the climate change and the energy transition?
Yeah, thank you, Hassan. Thank you. And I want to emphasize that I'm really honored to be here among professionals of the energy industry. So, Hassan, to talk about transition. So, as the world is accelerating toward the low carbon future, the energy transition today is often represented as a binary choice. So, the fuel of today's versus the renewable and technologies of tomorrow. But the reality is more complex. So, what the world needs is energy that not only lowering carbon, but also reliable, affordable, and scalable. And this is precisely where natural gas plays a pivotal role. At ALNAFT, in my agency, we see natural gas as a vital catalyst in both today's and tomorrow's energies. It is a flexible fuel with low carbon intensity that complements renewable, powers industry, and strengthens energy security. The global energy demand is expected to continue rising through 2050, driven by economic growth, industrialization, and the increasing energy needs of artificial intelligence and data infrastructure. So according to the GECF's Global Gas Outlook 2050, published early this year in January, meeting future demand could require around 5,300 billion cubic meters of natural gas annually by 2050, a 34% increase compared to this year, to 2025. So the demand of gas will increase by 34% by 2050. And today, gas represents about 23% of the global energy mix. By 2050, this share is projected to rise to 26%, with global gas consumption not yet reaching its peak. So I join what our friend said, that the transition is not to stop one model and to use only renewable. We will never transit to this. So Algeria is responding to this evolution because there is this demand, and Algeria would like to respond to this demand. And we are developing our gas resources. My agency regulates exclusively upstream activities, prospection, exploration, and development of gas assets. So we are developing our gas resources anchored in a portfolio of world-class assets, strategically positioned and built on decades of potential excellence and enduring partnerships. So our globally integrated supply network connects these assets to markets across Europe, Africa, Asia, and beyond. So this enhanced flexibility, reliability, and value, ensuring that Algeria remains a trusted partner in meeting the world evolving energy demand. So in conclusion, natural gas is not just a bridge fuel. It is foundation for a balanced, secure, and sustainable energy future. And I was honored to participate to the last Madrak workshop, and at that time, we have reviewed the interconnection of the Mediterranean countries, but we were focusing on electricity. So today it's called for Madrak. I would like to see that interconnection reach the gas industry also. So this is to join and I'm really aligned with our friend who said that we have to see an inward connection. So gas should be a part of this inward connection. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Samir. Indeed, as I already said in the beginning of my speech, that without gas, unfortunately, it's not possible to achieve this target. And then I also do agree with Mihalis. In the future, energy mix should be hybrid. We should not really phase out everything, particularly when I talk to hydrocarbons and the gas issue. On a second round, I would like to ask Amin. Amin, what is the long-term strategies and vision of IRH in the margin of the COP outcomes?
Thank you, Hassan. So, in my humble opinion, the energy transition, more than a concept, it's a reality, especially for developed countries. But its definition is not yet universal, because each country and each government has its own vision for defining the parameters, objectives, and timelines for the success of its own transition. Based on this political, economic, and technical reality, I believe that the energy transition will develop at the local and then at the regional level. And this is why where regulators must act together. in framework of consultation and experience sharing to develop regulations and enable regional integration driven by ambitious investors, ensuring acceptable prices levels and above all the resilience of our energy systems, which guarantees of continuous energy supply. So I would like to emphasize that the Mediterranean Energy Regulators, MEDREG, offers platform and an excellent opportunity to develop a regional regulatory framework conducive to interconnections and to provide the necessary assurance to investors to invest heavily in this type of project. So it is with great optimism that I look forward to prosperous energy future, but one that requires massive investment in all available energy sources, starting with natural gas and joining forces with the scientific community to support their research in order to provide us with more efficient and economically viable technologies for energy production, storage, and transportation. As for the objectives discussed before and after each COP, I believe that the solution lies in a fair and sustainable transition that takes in account the specific characteristics of each individual and their ability to meet the basic needs of populations and their economies. To be more specific about my projections for the future of the energy transition, I can share with you Algeria's vision and achievements, in addition to an ambitious plan to develop 15 gigawatts of photovoltaic power, of which 5 megawatts are also ready and connected to the network, and 3 gigawatts will be brought into production next year. Algeria is in talks with its partners about an electrical interconnection to export green energy to Europe via Italy and Spain. And we are in discussions with several partners about the construction of pipeline to export hydrogen to supply the European market via Italy and Germany. These concrete examples allows us to look forward to a better future where the Mediterranean model can be a successful example to follow.
Thank you. I mean, you also highlighted an important thing, Mediterranean model and Mediterranean-based regulatory framework, I would say that. Having said this one, I turn to Mihalis. You have mentioned already the main challenges for the region having disparities between the sub-regions. So how do you see the role of MEDREG or the regulators? What is the biggest challenge for them towards this energy transition?
Well, the point is that there is a challenge. So if there is a challenge, it's big. I think for an organization like MEDREG, the issues that need to be overcome, they have to do with the Mediterranean countries themselves. The Mediterranean countries, we are kind of double personalities. We all belong in two different areas. So the European Mediterranean countries, they are European, feel European, think European, but they're also Mediterranean. So a little bit different. The Middle East Mediterranean countries, they are Middle East, but not exactly like the others, more Mediterranean. The African Mediterranean, the same. They are African, but more Mediterranean. We need to find this common Mediterranean thing because we all have double things that they change us. So in organizations like the MEDREG, I think this is the important. We need to find what is the common thing. What are the common things in the way we think, because then we can put this into regulation. And because there are a lot of differences, we need to begin with the few common things that we know for sure. A few basic things. This is how we need to hold on to this and build from that.
Thank you, Mihalis. Indeed, MEDREG, MEDTSO, with the support of the European Commission, we are trying to develop a common Mediterranean grid code for the electricity. Of course, this grid code is not going to be a binding grid code, but it's going to be a kind of guidelines for the region. If they want to interconnect with each other, they should set, at least the regulators, these minimum criteria. Mohammed, as regards to, as the Vice President of MEDREC, how do you see the role of MEDREC in Mediterranean creating a functioning market? Yeah.
I think that MEDREC is played very and playing a very important role in the Mediterranean, and there are some support for the support activities to the members in this regard. As you mentioned, Hassan, that we have to immediately, and I am a vice president, and with my colleague Amin, he is also, we will recommend in a quick way to propose the Mediterranean grid code, and as you mentioned that we don't want to put it in it a technical issues, but and some general conditions, which is sharing with all the members in MEDREC.
Thank you, Mohammed. My last question to Samir. Samir, you already mentioned that without gas energy transition is not possible. And then what would be your authorities' efforts in ensuring this demand in the margin of the climate changes?
Yeah.
And the global gas demand.
Yeah. Hassan, at UNNAFT, our mission today, it's very clear. We aim to unlock the full potential of our gas assets in Algeria. And we aim to reach the level of 200 billion cubic meter annually. So we are bringing more and more gas to empower the world. And we recognize that no single company or country can meet the energy challenge alone. So this is why we are working closely with international investors on large-scale solutions, establishing a practical and robust framework that support investment and foster the innovations of tomorrow. So we need partnership because our full potential and our top priority today is to explore more and more. We believe that we have over than 700 TCF of unconventional gas, but this needs investment. And as upstream regulator, we have set up strategy rooted in innovation and collaboration and pragmatism. So to get and to produce that potential. There is no, the matter is not about the potential. The potential is here, proved, and we have to produce it in transparent and sustainable way. For that purpose, we have prepared our strategy, and this takes me to briefly share with you a UNNAFT roadmap. So our sedimentary basins hold immense potential, as I said, and we are fully committed to promoting investment and collaboration to unlock the value of these strategic resources. As we look ahead to the future of global energy demand, it becomes clear that exploration in Algeria must now go beyond conventional boundaries. So, Algeria is an attractive country for upstream investment, and our recent bid round confirmed the country's appeal as prime destination for hydrocarbon and specifically gas investment. Last year, we have awarded 5 out of 6 gas blocks during our bid round. And building on this momentum, we are actively preparing the next bid round for the next year, early next year, 2026. And in line with this, we are in an inclusive and transparent approach and are plan to launch before the end of this year a nomination process. We have already pre-selected 24 blocks, gas mainly, to get nominated by investor. And we will select 6 to 10 blocks for the next bid round. And this is how we are regulating the upstream activity, and we want to bring to the table more and more volumes of gas. And Hassan, I want to summarize and to wrap up my idea or what I said. So, the word resilience is more and more linked to energy today. And this is since we have tried to accelerate the energy transition. So, in my point of view, the resilience is guaranteed by gas. So once we have the volumes of gas that we need to cover the peak, to cover any issue with the renewable, so we can be resilient. We can say that our energy mix is resilient. And I want to, I'm sure that my friend Michaelis will agree with me. I would like to qualify renewable as energy addition and not energy transition. So we have to add it to the gas. And thank you. Thank you.
And thank you very much. Indeed, really, Mediterranean is a region where will be affected from the climate change 2- or 3-fold more than other regions. But at the same time, Mediterranean region possesses every kind of resources. We have vast amount of hydrocarbons, we have vast resources of renewable energy. I do agree again with Michaelis, we should work together to create a functioning market which will bring ample opportunities for each of the countries in the region, and we will also develop security of supply and efficiency in the market. I would like to thank you very much for all our panelists for being with us today, and once big applaud to them, and thank you again.
Thank you. Thank you.
Any questions from audience, or if you would like to, as we are here? Thank you very much.
As it's later. Thank you for attendees. Thanks.